Okay, let's see if this works. So I am working in Maya Lab 4. At this point, you should have most of your cone 3D modeled, okay? And right now we're working on the handle. So we've added a new cube to the scene, and we're going to go ahead and go into our front view. And let's start positioning this cube where we want it to be and scaling it to line up with that handle. So let's start about there. Again, I want you guys to come in and we're going to delete the top and bottom face. So I'm using my right-click selection mode to select faces, and then I'm going into and deleting those. Okay, and then in our side view, I'm going to grab object mode again real quick so that I can scale in the entire thing. In our side view, we're just going to kind of look at about what the side over here looks like, because obviously we don't want the handle on the side view as well. So I'm just going to kind of narrow up this handle. I think about there looks pretty good. That's how thick I want it to be. Other than this scale right now that we just did, we shouldn't have to mess with our side view anymore, because most of this handle is just going to be in that front view. Okay, now we are going to come into our perspective mode again, and we're going to hit Q so that we're not on that scale selection, and we're going to select the edge loop. So again, we right click, edge selection, double click on one of these edges to select the entire loop, and we're hitting space and hopping back into this front view. And then I am going to use W, hotkey W, to move this down. And I'm trying to line this up with the geometry there. I'm going to toggle between R for scaling and W for movement, and then occasionally I will also go into E to rotate this. Whenever you're rotating in this view, don't grab this outside circle, because that will rotate it in more than just the directions we want. So we're just grabbing this inside yellow circle. Okay, so I'm happy with right there. I am now going to select the bottom set of edge loops. Again, if you aren't able to see through your object like this, maybe you're not in wireframe mode like I am, wireframe view, you can hit 4 on your keyboard. That'll take you into wireframe. If you hit 5, that'll take you back into this shaded view. So I like working in wireframe view when I'm adding elements that are overlapping in my objects. Now I'm going to double click on this bottom edge. That should grab the entire loop, but let's double check. Yep, and we can check in our wireframe mode. Yep, we see the entire loop is selected. Again, it's orange. That means it's selected. Okay, and now I'm going to, let's move this up and rotate this a little bit. I'm trying to line this up with my geometry of my cone a little bit. I'm also going to scale this out a little. Okay, and I'm not ever grabbing anything from the center here because I don't want to scale in this direction, in this side view direction. And remember, if you grab in the center, it scales in every single direction at once. So I'm just grabbing the side scale right here, and that's all I'm messing with here. Okay, I'm lining this up. That looks pretty good. And then maybe I'm like, okay, I want to, let's add a little bit more definition. So I want to match that curve a little bit better right here. Again, you can use the Alt and then right click to zoom in and out. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit again, move it over, and then let's extrude. Okay, so I'm doing Control E, and then again, don't grab the widget that first comes up, but I do have an extrude loaded. And now I'm going to switch into W, or move mode, and I'm going to pull that down. Okay, that looks good. And now I'm going to use the scale tool, kind of scale that out, match that geometry a little bit better. Okay, and I'm going to use the rotate tool, and I'm trying to kind of match this cone a little bit. I'm going to pull it up. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Okay, and then I'm going to actually, I want this to not be such a big difference where it's really long here, really short there. So I'm going to use the rotate tool. Oops. Okay, you see what I did there? I accidentally just grabbed one edge. So I'm going to hit Control Z real quick and double click. Make sure I got the entire loop. I got the entire loop? Okay, good. Now I'm going to use the rotate tool. I'm going to pull this up a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Again, I'm double clicking to get the entire loop. Hit the space bar to come into perspective view. Make sure you've got the whole loop. Again, if you want this wireframe mode, hit hotkey 4 or 5 for shaded. Yep. So 4, that looks good. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So Control E to extrude, hit W, and let's pull up the next section. All right, and I'm just going to be trying to go along. I'm kind of toggling between my move tool, my scale tool, and my rotate tool, and I'm just trying to match kind of the angle of the geometry here. All right, let's scale that in even more, bring that over, okay, and then I'm going to scale it in even more. Scale this direction a little, flatten that out, okay, pull it over. Okay, so now I've kind of matched this section here, but what I haven't done is match the geometry there. So I'm just gonna adjust this a little bit more this direction. Okay, okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to insert an edge loop here. And remember, insert edge loop tool is up here in mesh tools. The insert edge loop tool. I'm going to open up my tool window, and this time I don't want to insert with edge flow. I just want to add a new edge loop, but I don't want it to like expand or pop out the side of my model. So I'm going to uncheck insert with edge flow. Okay, and then I'm going to use that insert edge loop tool that's loaded right over here, and I'm going to click on one of these edges, and I'm going to come in here and add a new edge loop. Okay, let's see. Let's make sure it added it all the way around. Yep, it did. Okay, I'm still in this insert edge loop tool, so I'm going to hit Q before I touch anything else, otherwise I'll add another edge loop. And now I'm coming back to this side view, and I'm going to continue working. And I just kind of added that edge loop there so that I could easily kind of expand this out a little bit more to match that geometry that was kind of missing. This one, I think I want to scale it in a little. Oops. Okay, I did it again. So double click. Make sure you have the whole edge loop selected. Yep. Okay. And then let's pull that in just a smidge. Okay. So that's good. Kind of matching that shape coming out. All right. This one, we're going to pull that in a little bit again. Oops. Again. Double click. Make sure you have the entire edge loop. Yep. We got the whole thing. Okay. That looks good. Okay. Now we're going to keep going. So again, double click. Make sure you have the whole edge loop. I do. Okay. So I'm going to extrude again, Control E, and then I'm switching right into the W tool, and I'm going to pull out that extrude. Put it like right here-ish, and then let's try and rotate this. And right now I'm kind of just jumping to over here, because eventually I want this to be straight up and down this line. So I'm rotating it that direction, and now I'm going to scale it to kind of fit that area. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to use that insert edge loop tool again. So again, that's in mesh tools. Make sure insert edge with edge flow, insert with edge flow is unchecked. We don't want that checked. Then I'm going to use the tool that loaded and add it right here. Okay. And then I'm going to scale this down a little, move it up a little bit. Okay. Kind of like where that's at. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to keep going. So double click, make sure you have the entire edge loop selected. I do. Okay, and then I'm going to extrude again. We're going to use W again. And I'm just going to pull this out. And I'm just going to pull it out to about halfway. Looks like my model's not exactly on the halfway mark, which is unfortunate, so I will have to fix that. But I'm going to pull this line out to about the halfway mark and then try and straighten it out. Straighten out that line. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, and then I'm happy with this. Maybe I'll add another edge loop just so that I have polygons that are closer to the same size, because that's just a nice thing to have with some of your edge flow. So insert with edge flow is unchecked again. Okay, here's the insert edge loop tool. Let's add that right there, and then I'm going to use W, and let's just pull that up a little bit. Okay. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm going to come into my perspective view and turn on shaded mode again and take a look at that. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. I'm going to look at my side view again here. So it looks like these are actually a lot thinner than I was thinking. So I'm going to go into right click selection. So hold down right click, object selection, and I'm just going to scale this in a little bit thinner. Okay, so I'm happy with like right about there. I think that's a little bit closer to what it would actually be. Okay. All right, now that I have this aligned with my object, okay, now what I need to do is I'm going to combine this handle with the bottom half of my object, okay? I could mirror it first and then combine it, but then I'm going to have to fix the geometry on both sides anyways. So I'm just going to ignore the left half for now. I'm going to mirror again like we did earlier in the lab, and I'm going to take a look at this right half. Okay, I'm zooming into the right half, and we're going to go into wireframe mode. Okay, and look at this from the bottom. So it looks like I think shaded mode's a little easier here. So it looks like I have, obviously we know that the geometry of this object is just a box on the bottom, right? That's all it should be, is just a polygon, just an open hole, just like that. And if we zoom into the inside of our object, yeah, we see that that's what's going on. Okay, and then on this object, we actually have a line going through right there, a split. Okay, so first thing I noticed is that my object isn't exactly centered, my cone. So I'm going to change that. So I have my cone selected, I'm using the move tool, and I'm just going to ever so slightly bring this over. This is kind of closer to centered. I'm in the side view, I'm centering it on that side view, and I want to change this in the front view as well. I just want this centered on that middle grid line, make things a little bit easier for me. Okay, and then it also looks like maybe I should scale this out a little bit this way. I'm just going to pull it out a little bit. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, so now I am going to essentially draw a box using the multi-cut tool in the cone part of my object. So I'm going to come over here into Modeling Toolkit, Multi-Cut. Oops. And I am... Here, I'm going to hit Q really quick so you can see. So I'm in object mode here. I want this shape selected, not this one. Okay, so click on this shape and then go into the multi-cut tool, and it'll automatically allow you, the shape turns blue and it allows you to draw easily on there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to draw out a little box around my design. So I'm going to start with cutting this edge, and then I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to kind of cut right here. And what I'm doing is I'm holding down shift and then I'm dragging with my mouse that I'm clicking, right? I'm clicking and holding and dragging until it kind of matches the angle of my handle there. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I am going to come down here and kind of cut it right about there. That looks good. Okay. And then if I hit enter, you'll notice that I have now created 2 polygons here, but this is an n-gon because this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices, right? So this is an n-gon, and that's a problem. So I have a couple of options. I could insert an edge loop all the way through, but that adds a lot of geometry, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to insert an edge loop this direction. So let's go back to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. Again, we don't want edge flow, so make sure that's unchecked. Okay, and then I'm going to add an edge loop just like right here towards the top. Okay, and it automatically drew that line for me. Let's not worry about that yet, but this looks pretty good for this line, so I'm going to go ahead and click away. If you ever insert an edge loop and later you want to delete it, but you couldn't just do Control Z without undoing a lot of stuff, you can always double click to select that entire edge loop, hold down the Control button, and press delete. If you were to just press delete and you went to vertice mode, look, all of those vertexes that were part of that, all of those vertices are still there. So I'm going to undo that really quick. So again, if you want to delete an entire edge loop, hold down Control and then press delete. And now, as you can see, all those vertices are gone, except for this weird one that's right here. So I'm gonna leave this here, okay? I don't like this edge right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete it. And again, I'm doing Control Delete, so it deletes the vertice that was right in here. Okay. Okay, this looks good. This makes it a little bit more manageable for me. I am going to make another cut on this side. Okay, so I am going to cut, and I'm holding down Shift to snap cut. I'm just cutting right in the middle of this shape, and then I'm holding down Shift, clicking and dragging, and I'm doing about 80% here, and then again, I'm clicking and dragging, and here, let's see. What do we do for this one? I think for this last one, I think I will just click and hold, and I'm not holding down Shift, and I'm kind of just trying to make that look straight up. Okay. Oh, sorry, Windows button. Okay, anytime you have the multi-cut tool going and you haven't hit enter, it lets you adjust these a little bit, but if you're not careful, you'll accidentally draw a new line. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter really quick. Okay, I don't like where that was, so I'm just going to hit Control Z. And I'm going to actually draw this like 60%. I like that better. And then 80. And then over here we're going to just kind of make it look like a straight line. Okay, I'm happy with that. That looks a little bit better. So now I'm going to hit enter. Q. And I'm hitting Q to get out of that multi-cut tool so I don't accidentally cut something else. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and, let's see, obviously I don't want to connect this all the way to the edge. I do want to connect it here. So I'm going to need a line drawn right about here so that I can make that connection point. And I also need to do that on this side. So first I'm going to close this hole. So I'm going to use my edge selection tool, double click to select all of these, and then I'm going to extrude this, Control E, and then I'm hitting R right away, and I'm just going to scale this in pretty far. I'm going to hit W, and we're going to look in our side view again, and I'm just going to pull this up. I'm using Alt to pan up, Alt and middle mouse click, and I'm just going to pull this up ever so slightly, like right about there. Okay, that looks good. And then now I'm going to show you a cool trick to closing a gap. So I am going to press Control E again to extrude again, and hit R again, but this time instead of pulling it in, I mean I could pull it in a little bit, that's fine, I'm going to choose this merge to center option. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, oops, and it merged to the center. Okay, so it looks like in my scale selection I'm in object mode. Let's change that to world really quick, and now nope, same issue. Okay, merge to center. Well, it's a little bit off-centered, so let's just move that vertice and line that up with the center. That can happen sometimes. Okay, that looks pretty good. Not perfect, but pretty good. Okay, so the first thing you might notice is all of these triangles in here. Don't worry about those yet. We will fix those at the end because these are easy to fix. But what I do want to do is start making it so this box exists. And I also need to fix these n-gons right here. So I am going to go ahead and draw another line right here. And we're going to cut this shape. Enter. Okay. So I've got those lines. Again, I'm making more n-gons, so I need to think about that. Be careful or cautious about that. And I'm going to do that over here as well. So I'm going to click right up there, and then I'm just using the shift and the snap to get it to about where I want it to be. I'm actually going to move that middle one down so it's a little bit straighter. Okay, and then I'll hit enter and Q. Alright, I'm going back into wireframe mode, hotkey 4, just to see how closely this lines up. It's pretty good. It lines up pretty closely. It's not exactly perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into shaded mode, and I'm just going to click away, object mode, Q. All right, I'm going to go ahead and scale this out. So I'm going to go into wireframe mode so that I can see what I'm trying to get this to. And I'm going to scale this in the side direction until it kind of lines up with those edges we drew. So that's pretty good. Okay. All right. Hotkey 5 to go back into shaded mode. Okay, that looks pretty good. A little bit closer. All right. Now, what I want to do is fix my n-gons. Okay. So I don't really like how I drew these lines right here. I'm not really happy about that. So I'm actually going to double click and Control D to delete those. And I'm going to get rid of this one too. So I went to wireframe mode and then Control delete. Sorry, Control delete to delete those. If you do Control D, it will duplicate. So Control delete. All right, object mode. Okay, instead of just adding them, just like I was there, I'm going to insert some edge loops in here so it's a little bit easier for me. And actually, this one is close enough that I'm going to just scale it out. So I'm using the middle scale to get it to right about where we want it to be. And then I'm going to use the W tool in the side view to bring this down to match kind of our flow of geometry again. Okay, so this one I'm going to use as my connection point. Real quick, let's go into vertex mode and wireframe. This vertice right here, I am going to move this vertice over so that it lines up with these other two. Okay, so I am going to just move this one over here. Okay, and that looks good. And then if I go into shaded mode, okay, that looks pretty good. I like how that's lined up. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. And down here, let's insert another edge loop, okay, in this top geometry. So again, we're going to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. And I'm just going to click over here. And I want it to be right about here so it lines up with that bottom lip. Okay, that looks good. And now I'm going to grab that vertice again. And we're going to move this one over again in our side view. Okay, W, and let's move this one over to right about there. Okay, that looks good. Alright, nice. Okay, now I just need to fix these n-gons, yeah? So let's go ahead and figure out a good way to fix them. So first thing I notice is I don't actually need these lines to go all the way through right here. So I'm going to do Control Delete on that and Control Delete on that. And now I've moved my n-gons from these faces. So these aren't n-gons anymore, but these are, right? That's an n-gon. You can see the bend right there and the number of vertices, right? Okay, and now I am going to take my multi-cut tool and I am just going to cut from there to the corner, back up there. Okay, that looks good, and I'll hit enter. Okay, so now I have, these are four-sided polygons again, but these are triangles. So I don't love that. So the way that I'm going to fix that is getting rid of this edge right here. So I'm going to do Control Delete. Okay, and I got rid of that edge. So now I have this face here. Okay, actually before I do that, I'm going to leave that there. Sorry about that, guys. I went back a little bit, Control Z a couple times. I want to insert an edge loop in this top one because the way that the geometry is lining up with this inside cut is that we are actually going to want an extra edge loop in this top geometry. So we are going to go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, and we're going to add it right there. Okay, looks good. Yep. All right. Now I'm gonna hit Q again and make sure I'm not in the insert edge loop tool anymore. I'm in the selection tool now, and then I can click away. Okay, now I am going to delete the faces left behind that are going to be removed when I merge my objects together, when I combine these objects. So I'm trying to open up, I'm going on the inside now, so with the Alt and regular mouse click, I'm going inside my object, and I'm removing these extra faces right here. Okay, these are our triangles that we were talking about earlier. Also, in Maya, you're gonna have to get used to looking at things upside down, inside out, and underneath like this. It kind of just happens a lot, so you'll just have to sort of get used to that. First thing I noticed right up here is that these edges are quite a bit wider than my model right there, so I'm going to use the scale tool, and I'm just gonna grab right along that side right here, and let's just pull that in so it matches a little bit better. Okay, and then down here I noticed kind of similar thing, so I'm going to do that as well. Okay, that looks good. Next is that this vertice right here, it needs to come and be a little bit flatter. Okay, so that looks good. And now if I want to get rid of these triangles right here, the easiest way to do that is just to delete the inside edge. But I'm not going to do Control Delete this time because I still want that vertice right there. So I'm just going to hit Delete. Okay, and I should still have a vertex right there. So I have one, let's count the number of edges on this one. Oh, sorry, object mode on that top one. We're on the cone. I'm going to go to the outside so it's a little less confusing. And we're going to go to vertex. Okay. And as you can see right here in this triangle, it's not really a triangle, it's a four-sided polygon because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices, which means we have 1, 2, 3, 4 edges. Good. All right. So now what I want to do is I'm going to combine these objects together. Okay, so I'm going to take this object. I went into right-click selection object mode. I'm going to hit Q. And this object, and we're going to come up here to mesh. And we're going to choose combine. So hit combine. Okay. First thing you'll notice is these are left behind. That's fine for now because we are going to duplicate this object later to fix that. So leave that alone for now. Okay. And if you click away and you click back into it, you can see this is one object now, even though technically they're not connected. So now we are going to use that target weld tool that we talked about. And down here it says merge to targets, or you can choose merge to sensor. In this case, I want to do merge to target because I really don't want to affect the topology of my cone too much. All I want to be affecting is this handle. So I'm going to be pulling this handle into the cone. So we're going to go right here, this corner right here. I'm going to click out here, and I'm going to click the vertice that I want to move, and I'm going to drag it over to the cone and then release. Okay, that looks good. Looks like we have another one right here, so I'm going to click and drag. Looks good. Click and drag and release. Okay, so now we've started merging our objects together. Okay. Notice a couple things. A, we don't have an edge loop right here, so it will be hard to connect this portion of our object. I'm going to go ahead and say that we don't need this edge loop right here, okay? Because I think that we can keep a lot of the curvature of this object with this top one we made and that extra one we made down there. So I'm just going to delete it. Again, I have to do Control Delete so all the vertices go with it. Okay. Now we're matching up a little bit easier. Okay, and then the other thing I noticed is, oops, I forgot to put an edge loop on this side. Yeah, so let me go ahead and throw one in there really quick. Let's go back to Insert Edge Loop Tool. And then I'm just going to try and line that up as close as I can. That looks good. Okay, and hit Q and click away. Okay. We're not going to keep inserting edge loops. So again, we're on our selection again, and we're going to do the target weld tool. And this time we are going to weld. Let's go vertex mode again. This corner here. Awesome. And we're going to weld that middle piece there and this corner there. Okay, awesome. Sweet. Oops. Okay. Oh, did you notice what happened there? I accidentally have this selected. So I need to click away. Make sure you don't have a vertice selected when you start the weld tool, or you might accidentally weld that with your group. So I'm going to use the weld tool again. Hotkey 4, wireframe. I have nothing selected. Okay, good. Hotkey 5 again. Now I'm going to weld there, there, and there. Okay. Okay, that looks good. So now I have, oops, object mode. Okay. Now I have one entire object, and it is sewn together. It is merged together. And now I want to make sure everything is polygons. Okay. So right up here, these are all polygons. This is where we start getting into triangles. So I am going to go ahead and delete some of these inside edges. I'm not doing control delete, I'm just doing delete, and I'm turning these into polygons. Polygon, polygon, four-sided polygon, yep. Okay, that looks good. Okay, now I am going to come into the front mode, and I am going to delete the right half of my cone again, yeah? Actually, before I do that, let's add the bottom. No, I'm going to do the bottom after. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to delete the right half of my cone again. Delete. And sometimes you'll notice if you delete things from the side view, you miss something. So I'm going to go ahead and just come in here and delete those extra ones. And then to make sure that this is going to easily merge, easily mirror, I am going to use my multi-cut tool and make sure this is a straight line. So I'm going to draw from the top as close as I can, but I still want to see the cut visibly. And I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to draw a straight line all the way through, and then let go. Now I have cut a straight line through from the front view of my object, and now I'm going to go ahead and go back to face selection, and I'm going to delete those faces right there. So now I know for a fact that this is a straight cut, which means when I use the mirror tool, I won't have as many issues like we did the first time in the lab. Okay, that looks pretty good. I like that. And now I'm going to use the mirror tool again. So I'm going to pause the video here, and then the next one will be about the mirror tool.